There will soon be more rock climbing and bike trail opportunities on federal public land, such as Red Rock Canyon in the Northwest Valley.
It's part of the Explore Act, which was signed into law by former President Biden earlier this month. The new legislation rolls a dozen or so existing outdoor recreation-related initiatives into one policy. Congresswoman Susie Lee joined free soloist, rock climber, and Las Vegas resident Alex Honnold to announce the newly signed bipartisan law that she championed to expand outdoor recreation in Nevada.
It directs the Department of Interior and the Forest Service to identify, map, and promote at least 10 existing long-distance bike trails, as well as new areas where there's an opportunity to develop and complete a trail.
Moved here for this opportunity, and I'm hiking and climbing in these peaks maybe 4 days a week, and so I'm constantly seeing groups of folks enjoying the outdoors here. It's just so important to the community and so important to climbers traveling from literally all over the world to enjoy these mountains.
And fixed anchors for rock climbers like bolts and pistons are now legally protected in wilderness areas.
Park Act adds clarity, saying that the anchors on those routes are considered appropriate, that it is worthwhile to have safety gear in place so that people can continue to enjoy these incredible routes and still climb them and descend them safely.
And Red Rock Canyon welcomes more than 3 million visitors annually, many of them climbers.